Hi, everyone. Thought I'd just do this quick recording based off of a case study that came up in my insurance for financial planning class. My name is Annie Ismerlian, and I'm a licensed financial planner. I'm a business coach and mentor, and I do some teaching at a local college. I feel really called to make a video about this because it's something that is not addressed sufficiently enough, both in the financial industry, insurance investment industry, but also in classes when we are teaching others about how do we evaluate and assess people's needs. And there's something that really came up for me that I actually made a point to communicate to the students. And I feel like we need to talk about this overall. So here's what happened. Uh, every now and then we'll do assignments and case studies. So for the last couple of weeks, my insurance class was given an assignment around a couple with a young child. It is the husband's second marriage, and he's got two kids from another one. And basically, what we've got to consider is how do we properly evaluate and assess their potential insurance needs? And there's a couple formulas. We work through each formula. We figure out the advantages, disadvantages, the pros and the cons of which one would make most sense. We tend to use capital needs analysis in our industry, and that's one of the formulas. And then we have a discussion around it. But here's what came up for me that I feel a real sense of urgency to discuss. Most of these formulas talk about or address income loss when the other partner passes away, expenses, future education needs, all of those things. But there's a real gap. There's a real gap that is not addressed when one spouse disappears from the picture. Now, this was a typical scenario that was provided to this class, and it was around, and I say typical because this is the one we hear the most about. And I guess to a degree it still exists, although I feel that it's changing significantly. But here's the scenario. The scenario is that the husband is the breadwinner and the higher income earner, and the wife is a much, much lower income earner and mostly a stay at home parent and has a part time job. And when we typically assess needs of this family, we are basing it off of the higher income spouse, in this case, the husband, and replacing that high income. And obviously, then the insurance recommendation based on the husband's life would be significantly more, right? Or is it? So here's my issue. When you have a partner or a spouse who is a stay at home parent, who is contributing to the household, but not in financial ways, in tangible financial ways, their contribution tends to be undervalued and miscalculated when it comes to the overall needs of the family if that person were to no longer be in the picture. Now, that could be from passing, it can be from separation and divorce. Whatever the case, there is a gap. Now, they're handled a little differently when it's separation, divorce versus passing of a spouse. For this video, let's just talk about it with regards to passing of a spouse. Here's where it kind of came to a head for me. As I was providing and reviewing the answers with the class as to here's how you calculate it, here's the things that you consider, here are the expenses, here is the possible assets, here are the liabilities and the debts that need to be covered, here's the charitable bequests that they need to make or that they would like to make. But what about the lower income spouse, in this case, the wife? If they pass, presumably the surviving spouse, the one with the higher income, wouldn't really need much in terms of insurance need because there isn't really that much financially based on income that lower income spouse is providing. However, when we look at what they were contributing and how much it would cost to replace their time, their energy, their services, all the things that they did around the house, not just around the house, but around the family. I did a little bit of research, and here's kind of some general numbers that I found. Here's the range, and this isn't Canadian dollars, but apply an exchange rate that makes sense for you. But at a low estimate, it came to about $40 to $50,000 a year. At our higher estimate, it came to about $95 to $120,000 a year for stay-at-home parents. And the breakdown goes something like this. And stay tuned because I'm going to tell you what they missed. But here's generally the breakdown. Childcare, if it's full-time for two kids, is about $15,000 to $40,000 per year. Housekeeping, weekly cleaning, $6,000 to $12,000 a year. Cooking and meal prep, $8,000 to $18,000 a year. Transportation, gas, school drop-offs, errands, $4,000 to $8,000 a year. Tutoring and homework help, oh yes, $3,000 to $7,000 a year, which I think is undervalued. Household management, $4,000 to $10,000 a year. And what did they miss? Oh, what did they miss? The number one thing that is undervalued, but probably is the most important thing that spouse and parents provided while they were alive, was emotional support to the child and to the spouse. This cannot be underestimated. I don't even know how much to estimate it would cost to replace that. You would need several villages, possibly a therapist, probably some mentoring, some coaching. Like, there is so much that comes from emotional support that when this low income wife were to pass, the insurance need that's calculated does not account for all of the things that this person is doing to operate and execute on this thing called family life, but also the emotional support that's provided that cannot be underestimated is also not accounted for. So I really just wanted to make a video. It's a little bit of a vent, but I think we need to really look at things a little bit differently, um, and account for these very things and have conversations with our clients about these very things. So please, let's be part of this change. Let's really highlight for our couples as well that we're talking to about what if scenarios. What if this happened? What if this person passed prematurely? What is the value to you? And therefore, let's kind of estimate the costs. Um, when you have someone who's really been there for you and suddenly they're not there anymore, you can't replace that so easily. We can make things a little bit easier financially, but we can't replace that emotional aspect. Over time, it'll come and fill up in other ways, and hopefully in healthy ways. But I think we need to make this a bigger part of the conversation, and especially when we're teaching it to those who are getting into the financial planning and wealth management industry. So pop a comment if you agree with this, and also please add to the conversation, what do you do to initiate this conversation with your clients and your prospects and your peers in the industry? How do you approach this conversation? What's the response that you get? How do you account for this when you're doing your financial planning for your clients, or you're trying to figure out, what's their insurance need to properly qualify and calculate for this? I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for hearing me out, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.